Good evening. I'm Kathy Hurd, your town clerk, and I will call the Parents Review Board to order at 6:30. Please rise, if you can, for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to call roll. So when you talk, if you please push your button there on your microphone. Member Bocum.
Member Bocum. Present.
Thank you. Member Gill.
Present.
Member Grimes.
Present.
Member Jenkins is absent. Member Rain.
Present.
So we're going to start with introductions. As I said, I'm Kathy Hurd. I'm your town clerk. I've been with this town now since May. Prior to May, I was with the city of Ocoee as their deputy city clerk for about 9 years. And we'll just go around the table. Sorry.
I'm Elise Huey. I'm town manager since March. And before that, I've been here almost 7 years.
I'm Meredith Ryan, and I live at 205 Briley Avenue since 2017.
Jonathan Bocum, and I live at 208 ARB since 2020.
Hi, I'm April Grimes. I live on East Gully Avenue, and I've lived here most of my life.
Hi, I'm John Gill. I've lived in Oakland since 2010. I've been here for 15 years. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Mello. I'm the town attorney, and I've been with the town since 2021.
Hello, I'm Sarah Masterson. I'm the town planner. We've been with the town since 2022, 23. Yeah.
And I'm Brad Cornelius. Sarah and I are with Wade Trim, and we are the contracted town planners. And like Sarah said, we've been with the town now for about 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Now we will do our election for chair and vice chair. Do we have a nomination for chair? And you can nominate yourself if you wish.
Should we do like nominate?
We're also new.
Is this because the old chair is no longer?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. We need a chair and a vice chair.
Yes, we do.
Does anybody want?
Well, you've been on the board the longest. Do you want the chair?
I can be the chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Can someone please make that motion?
I have a motion to appoint April to the chair position of the ARB.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I get a nomination for vice chair?
John Gill. I'll step in for vice chair if no one else wants it. I'll do it.
Okay, can I have a motion for that?
I have a motion for John Gill to be appointed to vice chair.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I will ask the chair to take over the remainder of this meeting. I have.
This is like a group project.
Okay, I would like to open the floor for public comment. Is there anyone present who would like to speak? I will close the floor. Okay, we're going to do the approval of the minutes from the last ARB meeting. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes?
No comment. No questions.
Okay, can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
I'll motion for the approval of the minutes from 11/5/2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, our new business is the Briley Farm Phase 2 Plan Development Amendment for Design Review. Brad Cornelius with Wade Trim will present this item.
Thank you. Thank you again, I'm Brad Cornelius, with Wade Trim, serving as your contracted town planner. So I have a short PowerPoint on both of these. And I'll walk you through what's being requested of you all this evening. So as the chair just,
Sorry.
actually that's,
Hang on, I have the wrong one. I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
that's right.
Here it is. Okay. Okay.
Just so you all know, everybody in this room is actually for both of those. Doesn't matter where we go. So what we have is Briley Farm Phase 2 Plan Development Amendment for Design Review. Just a little bit of background real quick on Briley Farm. As you all are, I'm sure, aware, this project's been around for some time, and it's made up of different pieces and parts. We have Phase 1, which is comprised of 1A, 1B, and Daniels Cove, which you see there on the right of the screen, where those have previously been approved. And just so everybody does recall, the ARB about a year ago, might have been at that meeting you just approved minutes for, did approve design standards for the houses being built in Phase 1. That's 1A, 1B, and Daniels Cove. So those did come before you. You did make recommendation of approval, then ultimately they were approved by the town commission. What we have before you this evening now is Phase 2, which is that piece, that larger piece there to the west. Phase 2 is a little bit different than Phase 1 in that Phase 2 has an actual development agreement already approved for that project that was approved by the town commission in 2022. At that time, it was contained 111 lots, single-family lots. One of the unusual things that came up as we've been talking about Briley, and I can tell you we've been talking about Briley for 3 years since we started working for the town, is that in that 2022 development agreement, it referenced architectural and design standards for Phase 2, and it referenced them as if they existed. They don't exist. They, for some reason, none of us can figure out why or how or what, how it happened, but we confirmed it not only with the town clerk, which was Elise at the time, and we also contacted the developer's attorney at the time, and they all confirmed it never happened. So what's happening now, and since that time, that property's been sold, and now it's owned by Briley Land Holdings, and Mr. Ely's here on behalf of the owner. That is him. They took the property, so they've made some changes to the project as it was approved in 2022. They're reducing the lot count from 111 to 87 lots. They're revising the lot layout, and also they've submitted now design guidelines and architectural standards for the houses to be constructed there. So that's what's before you this evening, is for your consideration for a recommendation whether or not to approve the design guidelines for Phase 2. Again, I didn't change that. So in Phase 2, let's get to this one. In Phase 2, similar to in Phase 1, the way this is set up is there's different lot types based on the location, and they all have their own different standards related to their location, which helps them to be sensitive to their location and to deal with their situation and dealing with the surrounding properties, or in the case of the ones up there by the lake, dealing with the lake. So we have the different lot types. I have them in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we have lot type E, which you see there, and what I'm just showing, I'm going to go over, but those are the setback standards and all the different requirements that we would apply when we're reviewing building permits for those lots. Lot type F, again, we have all the standards that are within there that then we would be applying to them. I will say many of them are similar to what you would require anyhow, like for the side setback, which is 7.5 feet, that's what you would have anyhow. So the biggest differences are actually in the actual house designs when we look at this. Lot G, lot type G, which are there up on the lake, and lot H, which is the bulk of the rest of all the lots that are out there. And I didn't mention, but you can see on the side there, there's little ideas of kind of structure layout on the different lot types. This is all within that design guideline that was part of your agenda packet. What I've done here, I just extracted out these pages for your review and discussion tonight. In terms of the architecture and design, this is exactly the same as what was approved for phase 1. It's the colonial revival, which is that those are the examples they provided, the Florida vernacular, and then the French farmhouse. So all 3 of those have already been approved by the town, by you all, Planning and Zoning Board, as well as the Town Commission for development in phase 1. So this would provide a consistent pattern of housing and development throughout all of Briley Farm. And then also the images of potential outbuildings and what would be required. Again, this is the same as what has been approved in phase 1 of this project. So what would happen next is after you all will make your recommendation, whether to approve, to deny, or to approve with conditions. Those are basically the 3 options you would have this evening. After you do that, then it's scheduled to go to your Planning and Zoning Board on October 21st, and then they will do the same thing. And then it'll go ultimately to the Town Commission on October 28th and November 10th for them to make the final decision on whether or not this would be approved or not. In terms of our recommendation, we reviewed it, we worked quite a bit with the applicant going through this, and we do recommend approval, particularly because it is consistent with the overall pattern of Briley Farm. It's already been approved, and we do think it is generally consistent with the intent of your design requirements. So we do recommend approval. That's my brief presentation. If you have questions for me, Sarah and I will do our best to answer your questions. I know that the applicant's here and they may want to present, and you can ask questions of them as well.
I do have a question about the agenda packet we received. It said it went from 111 to 83 lots.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It is, we actually had discussions about that earlier today. The total is 87. 4 of the lots are being remained owned by the Vos family. So they are within the design standards, but there was different numbers that we got submitted, but we did confirm today 87 is the right number.
And what's the average lot size? Is it like a quarter acre, or more than a quarter?
You can get into a mixture of sizes. So you've got some 70s, 80s, 90s, and some 100s, right?
Yeah, the 100-foot wide lots are like typically adjacent to the nature preserve, and then also on the lakefront lots.
Right.
Then the bulk of the internal lots are on the internal streets that are 8 foot wide, and then we just have some 90s where the math worked out.
So none of them are less than 70 or 80 feet wide?
Yeah, we don't have any lots less than 80 wide.
Right. And that was one of the big changes from the previous plan, right? There were some 45-foot lots, there were some much narrower lots that brought up the lot count. So they removed those smaller lots and made the lots larger. And also, just for the board's information, 70-foot minimum lot width is the town standard minimum lot width.
Yeah, we were with the side setbacks, the 70 didn't really work with doing some of the rear loaded garages, so we just kind of let's just go all like 80s or above.
I do have a question regarding whether Street A lines up with Briley directly. It was a little challenging to see on the, I don't know if anyone has a thought, but that was one of my questions regarding traffic and hoping to avoid a Salinas Road thoroughfare like there is in Briley Farm or in Oakland Park. And then the secondary question I had was regarding pedestrian access or potential golf cart access To me, there's a few places that make sense, mostly between lot 78 and 79, but I would like to see if that's something that we could discuss.
Before we get into that, I would like to clarify, what is before you here this evening is the designs. This decision shouldn't really have anything to do with traffic or pedestrian access or golf cart access. And you shouldn't be approving or denying the signs based on considerations related to traffic.
Understood.
With that understanding, we'll just offer up, we did intersect the street, so like Street A goes into Briley. And then also, as part of our developers agreement that we have with the town, like we're supposed to provide like a trail down Jefferson. That's part of the whole trail network. That's like, I think, what's the trail that we're doing in phase 1 down?
Yeah, that comes from,
Vic?
It's on Vic.
yeah.
Vic,
Yeah,
yes,
Vic.
through the Vic right away, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, and then there's also part of that developers agreement where we're doing some, there's required dedications of nature preserve and then also park. I think we have over 15 acres per the developers agreement that we're dedicating to in the park and the nature preserve. So I think we also have to put in some park features, which we're not here to talk today, but that's our intent, is to follow the developers agreement.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to just confirm that the design standards for phase 2, there's no changes from phase 1. It's the same design standards?
It's the same houses. So, well, so the only changes, they did drop one of them.
It was the West Indies or something.
Yeah, it was, I don't really like that one. They dropped. So, but it is the same. The ones that they are moving forward with completely match phase 1.
Do any members have any additional questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
You're good.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak on this item further? Then I will close the floor. Can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the Broadway Farms Phase 2 Plan Development Agreement and Development Amendment Design Review.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we're gonna look at the 4th Street Village Plan Development Amendment, Design Review. Brad Cornelius with Grady Trim will present this item.
So this one is actually the first time we've seen this project, but this is called the 4th Street Village, and it is, and it's for you for design review. It's at the southeast corner of Tub Street and State Road 50. The owner is Oakland West 50, which is again is Mr. Healy, and Gemini Lane Development, which is again Bobby, are the representatives for this project. The property is about 21 acres in size, it's vacant, and what's before you tonight again is the design review for this project. A little background again, here's the location of the property there on that southeast corner with the turnpike on the back. So this project was one that has previously been approved by the town commission last year in April of 2024 under ordinance 2024-04 for a plan development and development agreement. Why you didn't see this one last year was that they did not include with this PD at that time their design plans for the buildings, and so there wasn't anything for y'all to review at that point in time. What's happened, and so what you see up here is the layout of the project that was originally approved by the town commission back in 2024. After that, they came back, the developer, Mr. Healy and his team came back with a revision to that plan, which what you see there is the updated site plan. And you can see it does reorient many of the buildings. One of the areas that you see is there was an entertainment venue down on the southwest corner. That's now up at the southeast corner. It's up now at the northwest corner of the property. Actually along 50 on the east side of the property, the previous plan, those buildings were kind of set back with the parking in the front. Now they put the buildings to the front and the parking behind. So, some definitely improvements to it. The other big change is the multifamily component, which is the piece on the southern end of the property, the horseshoe building that you see there. Under the previous plan, I'll go switch back real quick. The multifamily here was also the piece that was south of that east-west road in separate buildings, and what they're coming now is they brought it as one building as part of this development. So they did change. The amount of development, again, just for your information, is 190 multifamily units within that multifamily building there. And it's approximately 73,500 square feet of commercial office, which would be in the buildings north of that east-west driveway or roadway going through the project. So it's a big project, and it's an interesting project. So what they did submit building plans and elevations for your consideration and review. So this is the rendering of the project from that corner, at the southeast corner there, looking back into the project. I will tell you, the architects who did this are also here with us this evening, so if you have questions like that, they can answer them for you, which is good. And so there's different building types as we go through here. And you can see the key sheet there on the bottom kind of give you an idea. So this is for building A, which would be off of 50 on the east-western side of the project, near where the event venue is. That gives you an idea of the character. There's the other renderings, elevations for building type A. And then we move to building type B. That's also there along 50. It's one of the ones that runs parallel to 50, set off 50 a little ways. These are all commercial buildings that we're looking at. Again, those are the elevations, and there's the renderings of the elevations there for building type B. For building type C, these are one of the two buildings that will front on State Road 50. They're on the east side of the property. Again, so you can see the elevations there. You can see part of this project is having activated outdoor spaces as part of this, which is, I think, something we're pretty happy to see that as part of this project. And again, elevations for what that building will look like. Then this would be the elevation D, I think. And this is the other building that will be fronting on 50. So same idea here. And there are the renderings for elevations for that building. And then this is the next small commercial building coming off down there to the side. Again, a consistent design theme through this project, which is beneficial, again, in the renderings for the buildings, for that building. This is now the multifamily building. These are renderings of what that'll look like. It'll be 4 stories, which is the allowed maximum height. One of the things I will tell you, when this went through the process in 2024, one of the conditions of the town commission was, which they followed through with, was to push this multifamily to the back south side of the property near the turnpike. So one, not only push the multifamily away from State Road 50, but also put it closer to the turnpike and allow for that greater height at 4 stories. Those other buildings that we looked at, none of them exceed 3 stories. They're all 3 stories less. I think most of them are like at 2 stories at the most. So that's what that is. So this does still follows that intent and condition of the commission to push the multifamily in the back and have that height to the back. These are the renderings of that elevation for that multifamily building. So we'll move on, and some more elevations of that. One of the things I'll say about the multifamily building is that it is larger than what your design code calls for. Your design code for an apartment building, which this would have to fall under, it has a maximum building footprint of 12,000 square feet, or floor plate of 12,000 square feet. This is approximately 50,000 square feet as is being proposed, so it is larger. We as staff are not too concerned about that because it's integrated into the overall project and it's not just a standalone thing. Also with the depth of that project, the restriction, the maximum depth that your code allows is 180 feet, and it's approximately 228 feet deep if you measure the greatest depth on it. But again, as serving as your staff, we don't have any objections or concern with it as it's part of this overall project for the multifamily. But I did want to make sure that was, you all were aware of that. Just stepping back real quick, on buildings B, C, and D that we went through, those also exceed the allowed width of a building. A large store, commercial building, your code allows 150-foot width, and building B is at 204 feet, C is at 215 feet, and D is at 224 feet. So again, they all succeeded, but again, we have, as your staff, we don't object to that, and again, we think it integrates with the overall project. All the other buildings that they're proposing all meet the dimension requirements within your code for that. This is the last space. This is the event space that will be up near the corner of State Road 50 and Tubb Street. And so there'll be a small stage as part of it. There'll be retail, restaurant, cafes bordering it on either side, and being a gathering space for the residents of Oakland. And so that's the rendering of what that would look like. And again, more detailed rendering of what the buildings would look like within that event space. And like I said earlier, that event space initially was down in the southeast corner, and they've now moved it up to the northeast corner, or northwest corner. And basically, you know, as we look at it, is it gives it more exposure, more attractiveness for people who want to come here and spend money in the town of Oakland. Again, more renderings of that elevation of that entertainment area or venue. And so more. They gave a lot of these elevations for the entertainment venue, which I appreciate. But you can see that the layout is definitely an open, you know, public activated space for people to gather and be part of the community that's there, which is consistent also just, again, under your comp plan for the mixed-use activity center, which is what this is in terms of your comp plan, to provide these kind of active public spaces and not just vanilla commercial projects. So this really gets to that intent of your comp plan as well. So again, next steps, you all will make a recommendation today, whether to approve with conditions, or deny. Your recommendation will go to the Planning and Zoning Board on October 21st, and then their recommendation will go to Town Commission on October 28th, with a final decision on November 10th. So again, Sarah and I are here to answer any questions, and the development team is here as well.
All right, I do have a couple things. I love the change. I like it a lot better than the original. Having the apartments together makes perfect sense. The couple of buildings that are wanting to be made bigger, is there like a square footage that we're still staying within in those buildings? Because they can go up to 3 stories.
Correct, yes, sir.
So are they just like flattening it out and just staying within the square footage that's allowed for the buildings?
Yeah, so the ones, and to make, these are, if looking at the site plan, the 2 that front 50, that are the L-shaped,
Right.
those are 2 of the 3 that exceed that width. And so, yes, theoretically, they could go a little bit deeper or potentially higher. But I think what happens here, which is what your code is talking about, is creating somewhat of a street wall along 50. And I think by having that greater width, you start to establish that on that part. Now you don't, and then even with what they're doing on the event side, all those buildings are fine. There's no issues with their sizes. But again, it kind of gives that street wall frontage there. The third building that is a little bit wider is the one in the middle, in that little middle horseshoe, that's a commercial building, set back off of 50, that one's also slightly more. But again, I think for this project, at least from a staff perspective, I think the layout of the buildings makes better sense like this. And also keeping the scale down in terms of height on the front was also, I think the town commission was very sensitive to.
Can you maybe explain to ARB what a plan development is?
Sure, absolutely, yeah, so the plan development here in the town, it's a zoning tool, and it's a zoning district that we have. And in the plan development zoning district, one of the great benefits of it, it allows for developers to come in with alternative designs and standards for their projects that at the end would get a better project for the town. There's a benefit to the town as well as to the developer and what they happening. So that's why we bring these through you all, because if we held them to the strict letter of the law, this would look completely different. These would be small little, it would look like an office park with small little buildings because of the way the town code restricts it. So under the PD process, it allows you all to make a recommendation and ultimately P&Z to the town commission to approve these alternatives. And so that's the purpose of the PD. It also gives, because it comes along with the development agreement, which then gives certainty to the town as well as to the developer about what's going to happen here. And I can tell you one reason why this is before you, because the previous PD, it didn't match it. So we had the discussion and said we need to come back through and get a new one approved. So it gives the town definitely more certainty and we know what's coming here. So I hope that helps.
I appreciate the mixed use part of the project. I am a little bit concerned about the frontages on 50. When I was looking at the agenda, the elevations that face Highway 50, to me they're a little bit flat. So
This would be one of them.
yeah, so for example, the north elevation at the top, to me I'm a little surprised that there's not more code requirements for like storefront or openings on that face.
Well, Ms. Grenzo, I'll say to that, there are discussions in the code about that, not having like just a flat back and having two faces, but that's the request for the PD is not to have that on the backside. On that north side. And if that's something you as a board feel strongly about, you could make that as a condition of whatever recommendation you would make, that you would like to see that change, and then that would move forward to P&Z and to the town commission.
I would like to suggest that the elevations that front Highway 50 follow the code requirements for openings on the facade.
I'll second that.
What does that mean?
So generally what the code says is on that back side, you need to have doors, windows, basically look like a false front to some respects.
It does
Because they,
become a challenge a bit for tenants. A little bit, you know, when you think about it, usually you have an emergency exit door at the back of the building. And when you have multiple.
Excuse me, we need to have anybody speak in the mic, please, for the audience on Zoom.
Steve Healy, I'm the owner of the project. So one of the things I was saying is that is strange.
Oh, yeah, you gotta hold it, I don't know,
Wow.
yeah.
Is it like AI? Anyway, so the one of the challenges is, you know, when you have the back of that and you start adding windows to it, and you start adding glass doors and things, it does become a challenge. That's why you see most commercial buildings, they'll have typically a back side of some sort that's may not be as attractive as the front, but it's just because when you're laying out in space planning and you're putting in offices and different things that you're gonna have in storefronts, and then you have to take in deliveries, and other things that you want to have potentially hidden, it is much more of a challenge from a tenant perspective. And I'll be honest with you, that's costs that, you know, are not great either, but it does create two challenges for sure. So, I mean, this is much more typical of the back of a building for getting deliveries, for, you know, putting a proper space plan together. So I would prefer not to add a bunch of glass to the rear of a building.
Do we know what the code requirement is currently?
I can't tell you off the top of my head what the actual amount would be. We can look that up for you. But one of the things I will say too is the way this overall property was envisioned by the town, and this goes back to the BDSA study and everything, and kind of how this was original layout, is to make the focus of these buildings internal and try to engage that internal east-west. I'll go back to the site plan. To make that east-west piece to become somewhat of a Main Street kind of operation. So, you know, it's one of these situations where your code does have the requirement that we don't want to see just flat backs of buildings on a roadway. But then we have the other part of your code, or the general development intent, to make this property have its focus inward as opposed to outward. Because basically, there's not a whole lot of pedestrian traffic on State Road 50, and the hope would be it would be generated interior to the project and that kind of thing. But it would be a clearly reasonable recommendation for your board, for you all to make as a board if you think that is important.
Is there a way to add like columns or other architectural features that perhaps wouldn't be windows? I have a retail store in downtown Winter Garden, so I understand the back of the house shipping very, very much. However, we don't have a back of house entrance, and we have to bring everything through front of house. So I think there are ways for us to discuss making it look more welcoming on State Road 50. As we build out the town of Oakland on State Road 50, I would love for the historic look to continue, as you've done in your other projects. So I'd love to hear what we could discuss.
Yeah, and I was gonna add a little bit about the code. When we were doing the vertical design, we will research the code a little bit, and they do mention something about like the back house of the stores should not be straight, linear. Wall has some undulations and has to have some undulations and within 150 feet long, and that's what we try to achieve for the back house. And keep in mind, I mean, for retail, it's a little bit challenging adding glazing on the back. A lot comes with security. I mean, it's glazing, so it's easy to break in, and especially on the back house where nobody is paying attention to, you know, what's going on after hours, right? So it's a little. I mean, we can explore different things, but the back house, especially on this layout, is supposed to be a protective element rather than being transparent all the way through. Plus, what Steve Haley was saying before, it is a little challenging for the tenants to plan and lay out their interior space having two fronts. And I've seen it all over the place. When you know, we're trying to screen the highway to the front of the house of these retailers, creating a nice environment on the other side of the highway. It is very challenging for them having two fronts, because people, they're going to walk as soon as they see through, and the pedestrian transit becomes a little bit difficult to you know, control.
I think what might help to visualize a little bit better, because these renderings right here are more for the, let's just say the scale of the building, but they have like a better rendering. Who's controlling the?
I got it.
Can we go back to like the site plan and the down one? Yeah, right there, perfect. So as when we were going through town commission last year, the concerns that you did, and that you rightfully pointed out. And I think this details a little bit better than those, let's say, building elevations kind of show, like, because they're pretty much blank. It looks like blank walls. You think you're just going to be driving down 50 and seeing these blank walls, but you can see a lot more better the landscape buffer that we have to do as required by town commission. I think it's in our developers agreement too, of where it's like you have a landscape buffer between 50 and the rears of the building. So it's like, it's not that aggressive wall that you feel like it might be.
Do you know what the landscape buffer is, the width of it?
I think we're set up back off like 25 feet, I think, from it, but it's like, you can see like the variations in depth that we have. We have plenty of room to work with, plant some trees, and then kind of like, you can see how they put like arcs in with the shrubbery, if you will.
What signage were there, I'm just calling this out because they're not seeing external facing signage. Are you planning to do signage on like a pillar sign with multiple locations from 50? Or will there be signage both internally and externally? Because I think that's part of what's making it look not so polished from 50 on the site plan. But I understand as a business owner why you would want your sign above your store. But with large landscaping like that as well, it may not be
Because I know we
super
do.
visible.
Go ahead.
There's I have to come back with it.
Yeah.
It's actually, Brad knows a project, which I don't know if you all have been to, on McGuire Road in Windermere. So I have another office building over there, you know the one on McGuire. So if you look at it, they have, so it's Park Ridge Gotha, McGuire Road, brick buildings are beautiful, they're probably 40 years old. But the back of the buildings, the answer is, you could have signage, in the back of the building, but everything was focused inward. So like all our signage, everybody else's signage in there is, you come in the parking lot and then you see, oh wow, there's all these businesses within this office park. So the only people that, to my knowledge, even rather than even use the rear signs, which we could have, I never did, is the side of the building. That was it. A couple of people have used the sides, but overall the focus was to really get people in there. It's as attractive landscaping wise around it. I'll give you an example. Even where our sign is on the one building, I've got like 6 cypress trees that you can't see it anyway, because they wanted it landscaped around to make it, kind of hide the buildings a little bit, make it pretty. Then you come in, that's where you're like, whoa, oh wow, all this is here. So it is a little bit more like that, and that's a good example of a place if you know where it is. But there's all the signage is internal for the most part.
And Ms. Grimes, the width of that landscape buffer on 50 for the plans is 12 feet. It's a 12-foot landscape buffer. But then you have the right of way outside of that, that could be green space as well. But their landscape buffer on their property is 12 feet on it.
Yeah. And there's monument signs on the entrances too.
We also have a few places for monument sign as well. So it will be.
Yeah, you can like see it like right there at the intersection.
Yeah, I think my worry is that these buildings, they're probably gonna be like 18, 20 feet tall, so even a 12-foot buffer, a larger buffer, you'd still see these buildings from Highway 50. So I do think there should be, maybe not, like I understand the functionality of a tenant space, but I do think there should be more of an emphasis on design in some areas, so it's not just a large blank looking wall.
Yeah, so are you saying as long as we have, that we're meeting the intent of what the mayor asked us to do of having a enhanced landscape buffer, as long as it's not like a standard buffer, but we're going above what a typical buffer would be, is what you're requesting?
I'm suggesting that the elevations now should have more of an emphasis on design, like the other faces in the property. Like I like the apartment building, I like the look of this. I just think there should be like a little bit more on those faces because that's what we see driving by.
Is it just, it's the two on 50, it sounds like, are the
The two on 50 and then this event center. And maybe this event center will be hidden by the trees. But like in this rendering, I can see a large part of the event center and then the two buildings to the left. So I personally have an issue with the faces on Highway 50.
Yeah, that's not what we do. Yeah, it is.
Well, we can improve, the, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and that's a part of our design intent. But I mean, following, there's signage missing, for example, these renderings were preliminary, and they may not be, following an exact same tree location for what the renderings intend to. We can play a little bit more with some landscaping. For example, we can play moving some buffers so you don't see the building on the back as much, and maybe adding a little bit more color for the elevations, because those elevations, the way they're right now, they are producing shadows. I mean, they're literally bumps, and it's not flat. The flat elevation is a 2D drawing, and it's intended to be 2D just to pass the volume, the skyline of the buildings, the village looking of the design or the retail. But I mean, if you zoom in on those cameras and those 3D cameras, you'll see that there's not a flat wall. The walls have very pronounced undulations. They have some roofing entries. I mean, we can definitely try to play with the landscape a little bit more, just to.
And do we know what the requirements are for the right of way as far as landscaping? Because you talked about a 12-foot landscape buffer, but I think that you have another 15 feet of right of way, 20 feet of right of way.
Well, the state right away, yeah.
Yeah, state right of way.
Right.
So, that's another opportunity where I'm sure that they'll be introducing other landscaping as well.
Yeah, like the building's set back 25 feet from the right of way, from the state's right of way. So it's like, why were we kind of like, I think where they show like the kind of like the waves, if you will, of the landscaping. So it's like there's opportunities for them they could add a little bit more depth to the landscape buffer.
I think just dimension in general on the backside is what I would like to see more of. I don't know if it's like beadboard, like different textures. It just looks really flat.
And I think the other,
I'd be okay with that idea, like adding a little more texture rather than glass.
I think I would love to see what that would look like.
Okay.
Especially if there's no, especially if there's no intended walkway back there. I agree from a retail perspective, you don't want people really hanging, but it just looks like it doesn't entice me to come in, which is the whole point, right? I also think it could be interesting, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I would love to see if we could potentially pivot this U and have the back of this ceiling, if you will, over the stage face 50, if that is something that our agreement would allow, because I think that's really your driver, right? You want people to come there, you want people to dine there and go to concerts there, and I just think it would be lovely if we could get more people to see it, but maybe you're anticipating your traffic's coming from Claremont and they're gonna see it that way anyways.
Yeah, really, we kind of like say it's like how it's kind of channelized, so it's like, so a family can come there and not have to worry about their child running out. Even though it's like, I'm sure we're gonna have landscape and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but it's kind of having.
So there is an entrance and exit from side stage?
Yeah, it's kind of like what Brad, kind of building on what Brad says, kind of like the town kind of like desires like wanna say like a continuous wall, if you will, almost, where it's like, what do you call it, Brad? It's kinda like a wall face, like when you're building, street wall. So it's like, kind of like how it's like you can kind of channel it to certain points, and then you have like small openings for where we'll have like connections for like sidewalk connections, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of like reduces like how many places that you can cut through, is why we have it like oriented this way.
Okay.
But I think is what we would like to try to do today is like, I guess, get approval. I guess it could be a condition that we will look at doing a deeper or like enhanced landscape buffer, and what did you say, like texture?
Yeah, I think it sounded like maybe more, not even as much landscape. I think you'd rather see just a little more detail on those buildings. Does that
I'd
sound
like to see
right?
more detail. Is there a requirement for the landscape buffer? Like a
There's a general requirement, but again, because we're at a PD, it's whatever gets approved as part of the PD.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ideally, typically it would be 20 feet, 20-foot buffer, but that's where we run into issues with the way your code's written. And then that conflicts where your code says in our corridor district, we want the buildings to be pushed up to the edge of the right of way. So we have conflicts. This is something we have to work through as we continue to work with the town. But under your PD and under your urban corridor design district, what it calls for is for these buildings to get pushed right up to the edge of the right of way. So if we apply the 20-foot PD thing, well, now we're in conflict with the design standard that says it's gotta get pushed up. So that's why through the PD, we come through with basically negotiated, this is what would work based on those two conflicting requirements that we have. And that is, I will be completely honest with you all, that is a challenge we have here in the town with these design standards. There is a lot of internal conflict. And that's why we see a lot of these PDs coming through, because that's the best way for us to handle these internal conflicts, is establishing design standards for this project specifically, outside of what the standards would typically be.
And candidly, you know, it's so much easier when you're not pushing the buildings up to the street. You know, if these were reversed the other way, you know, you'd have exactly what you want. You'd see it from 50, you'd have all the storefront, and the internal road would have the back of house, which nobody cares about. But they wanted us to flip them up to the street and reverse everything, so that's what we did. It's a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? I'd love to flip it back the other way, but that's not what the town wants. So.
Real quick, so there's people online that can't hear you guys well. If you could come closer to the mic, that would be great.
Yeah, speak into the mic.
And another point, I mean, when we were going through the back of house, especially for the loan buildings, the loan retail buildings, on the vertical design, we did, in our side, we did a traffic study, and people will be, I mean, one of the reasons why they made us split the buildings is because they said maybe people will be 30, 35 miles an hour. You don't get to see that wall all the time. I mean, I understand. We'll see it today only because the building is flat and we presented it on a piece of paper, but on real life, the building is not going to be that tall, and to actually perceive the wall of a back house, and we'll make some differences in the elevations to make it look like it's not a back house, but. And keep in mind, I mean, the landscape will help a lot and some lighting, because it is a back house. I mean, I can't, and it's gotta be secure as well. I mean, for a retailer, you want to have one door to get in, one door to get out. Secondary door is a service, and that's it, right? To make the place tight and secure.
So will there be any signage on the elevation facing 50 so people going by know what's there? Or is there gonna be,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we show that on the
so
elevation.
there will be some design element there?
Exactly. You'll have different signage designs and maybe some, leaded signs of the store, because even for delivery, they're gonna have to know what door to go. And that is also missing on those elevations, because keep in mind, this is a very preliminary design. Not every detail is being worked out yet, but yes, absolutely, we'll have that.
Okay, so I think I would like to see more texture on the facade. I think that is a good compromise.
Okay.
So how would we do that? Do we?
If you want to make a motion to approve with the condition that they enhance the texture of the 50 facing walls of the project, you could add that as a condition to it.
Are there any other comments before I make a motion? I would like to.
Oh, excuse me, someone other than the chair should make the motion and then second on the motion.
I can make the motion. I make a motion to add additional textures to the State Road 50 facing buildings. Would anyone like to second?
Excuse me, is this a motion to approve? We didn't say approve.
Approve with this adjustment.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:27 p.m.